and welcome. My name is Barbara Myers, and I am the host of Mental Health Matters. Today, our show is going to be about the subject of peer support and self-help, and that is having mental health clients helping themselves and others in a way which shows how people who have been there can help others who have also been there. And today I'm very fortunate to have two very capable guests with me. First I'll introduce Carol Patterson. Welcome, Carol.
Thank you.
Carol is a consumer liaison at Berkeley Mental Health.
Yes.
And next I'll introduce Nancy Thomas. Hello, Nancy.
Hi.
Welcome. Nancy is the Executive Director of Alameda County Network of Mental Health Clients. Both Carol and Nancy and myself are all mental health clients. I'd like to, before we start talking, I'd like to tell a little bit why this particular subject has such meaning for me. When I was first hospitalized with depression many years ago, I was very upset about being in the situation, about being in the hospital and sort of in a panic state, thinking that my whole useful life was over and that I was sort of written off as crazy for good. And while I was in the hospital, I received very good care from the staff and from my psychiatrist. But what really helped me, I think, as much or maybe even more than that, was I'm thinking of a particular instance when I was devastated, sitting on in my room on my bed, and another woman patient came in, and I was crying, and she just put her arms around me and held me and let me cry. And there's something about that, just unconditional acceptance of another individual that had been through something and was there the same as I was. And she had a lot of mental health issues herself and daily conflict with the staff on a number of things. But she healed me in a way that the other treatment didn't touch. And ever since that time, I've had the utmost respect for trying to get clients involved and peers involved in helping others that have been through a similar experience. So with that introduction, I'd like to have Carol and Nancy tell some of their stories about how they get involved in mental health and what makes you so committed to the idea of peer support. First, Carol.
Okay. I guess like yourself, I ended up in the hospital and I thought that was the end of my life. I went back and I tried to enter life again and just pretend that nothing had happened, and that didn't work really well. I ended up back in the hospital again, and so I really kind of then, after a while, started looking at, well, maybe there's something I can do with this experience that I've had. And so I found a group in San Francisco that was planning a conference, and kind of met them, and we went around advertising the conference, talking to the media, and it was really a whole new thing of really being open about it, and through that openness being able to meet other people like myself and know that there was life after the hospital. What was really interesting is that there was a state organization that formed, the California Network of Mental Health Clients, and I got involved with them, and they were working at the state level doing legislative advocacy. I remember going to Sacramento with a whole bunch of consumers, and we went and sat in the legislator's office and told them about our concerns. And
now, by consumer, we mean mental health client. Some people aren't used to that.
That's true.
So,
yeah.
For the benefit of the audience.
Yeah, I like that. It's a very controversial term, actually.
Yeah.
I like it when I think in terms of, we have consumers, we have rights and strengths. We can go into the marketplace and purchase things, and if we don't like the product, we don't purchase it. And I really like the idea of that with mental health, of purchasing mental health services rather than surviving mental health services, which sometimes is what it feels like.
Yeah.
so we did legislative action. It was really exciting and scary and really important, I felt, to be with other people so that, you get a sense of support and strength that you can do something new that you haven't done before. So that was really what I found self-help to be about. And it's interesting because the peer support came through doing other things. I've taught people peer counseling in my work, and it's a different focus when you're really focusing on providing that peer counseling support to somebody versus doing something and having to support each other in order to be able to do it at all.
Tell us a little bit about your position as
consumer liaison
at Berkeley Mental Health.
Well, this is kind of different because now I'm working in the mental health system.
Right.
And
how was that switch for you? Was that
it's taken a while to get used to it because I was really used to being on the outside and advocating against the system sometimes, or trying to make the system be more responsive to us. And now I'm inside, and I have people who are outside advocating against me, and you're Nancy, my friend.
Against the system.
But it is working differently. For example, I can have conversations that I couldn't have when I was on the outside. That can, have some influence. I can be in the room when the decisions are made and say, well, what about including consumers in this decision? And so it's really learning how to use different skills for the same purpose, I guess. And having to find peer support is really important, especially when you're in a job where you're identified as a consumer.
Right.
Yeah. And other people aren't identified.
And they may or may not be.
That's true.
What are you most proud of accomplishing in that job?
Oh, I'll tell you, we just developed a brochure on making the most of your medication appointments. And it's really a brochure on how to advocate for yourself when you meet with a doctor. And it's focused on psychiatrists, but it could be used with any doctor because doctors meet with us like sometimes 10 minutes. And during that time, they have to get to know us, understand whatever's going wrong with us, and make a decision about how to help.
Right.
And so if we can present information clearly, effectively, if we know the questions we want to find out answers to, the concerns we have, if we can raise them in that 10 minutes, then we're really doing a good job advocating for ourselves. So the brochure the idea is to help people be able to do that, think about what kind of questions they want to ask, and really plan their strategy for their meeting. I'm excited about it.
Oh, good. Nice work.
Thank you.
Nancy, I'd like to talk with you and hear a little bit about your story and how you became involved in mental health and what makes you passionate about this work, because I know you are.
Well, I was 13 when I was put into a mental hospital, and it wasn't a very successful time. I had shock treatment and wet blankets and a lot of things to basically try to help me sleep. I didn't sleep for about a month, and that can really throw your reality off. So after experiencing that at 13 and then being in and out of the hospital for another about 7 years, but the thing that I must say that was helpful for me was going back to the same school, not being put in an alternative or a special ed program or whatever, but going back to the same school, going back to my family. It was very helpful to feel more that it wasn't such a huge dilemma going from the hospital back to something totally, starting from the bottom up. I always felt like I was getting back to normal faster each time. And when I moved out to California from Connecticut, it was like a revelation. My first job was with CIL, which was the first independent living program in the country. And I saw people who were in wheelchairs, deaf, blind, all different disabilities working together to say, I can stay in the community if you give me proper supports, what I need. And we can get what we need by working together. And that was such a wonderful message that I thought it fit for everybody, including mental health clients. So from from CIL and Kids Project, which was Keys to Introducing Disability in Society. I moved into, actually first I went to the library and worked at the library, and then as paid jobs became available, I was a materials developer for Peer Self-Advocacy Project, and then finally I was the second administrator for the Alameda County Network of Mental Health Clients. And I think my passion is developing alternatives, that the community is a safe place, that mental health is inside of you and you can do whatever you can to maintain it or build on it. And for me, the community is my support, finding like-minded people and working with them. And I think that's been my passion for about 30 years, I guess, or well, it's been 40 years since my first contact. So I would like to see many, many more self-help programs. And there are. I mean, there are constant. And when people are together and realizing that they have strengths that they can build on, even the most traumatized or whatever, people can relate to each other and help each other.
Out of, I guess, self-disclosure, I should mention that I'm actually working in one of Nancy's programs that's administered by her organization. It's called Reaching Across, and it's a peer support group that is here in Fremont where we're filming. And I work there about a quarter time, and everyone there is a mental health client, including the director and myself, which I'm an assistant director, and all the various clients. And I know it's been immensely helpful to me and to others as well. So, I can give testimony to about it. Could you tell us a little bit about some of the other programs that you have? Okay.
It was based on the whole idea of people helping each other, reaching across, just as the name of your program is, and that people can learn about and benefit from each other's experience. So we have basically 3 drop-in centers, 2 in the community. Fremont is the first, I think, and still maybe only client-run self-help center in Fremont, and that was started when people got together and did a Consumer Speaks conference in Hayward. We really tried to outreach to South County because all of our programs were in North County. Berkeley Drop-In Center, which is one of the oldest drop-in centers, client-run drop-in centers in the country, I believe, started in 1984, I think, and that's become a multi-service center. It's not just a place to drop in anymore, although that's certainly I think it's really important to allow people to come in the door voluntarily, to not have any timelines or any boxes to check to get the services you need, but that when you're ready, you can sit on a couch for 6 or 8 months, and nobody's going to, say you got to move, you got to do this, you got to do that, in order to keep your housing or to blah blah blah. It seems to be important to give people their own space and time. And then the other drop-in center is the tenant support program, which is at the California Hotel, which is it's not just a single room occupancy. It's a huge old jazz hotel from the 30s. It's now become a place for folks who have multiple disabilities, mental health issues, substance abuse issues, AIDS, HIV issues, all sorts of hard to house folks. And we were part of the Health Housing Human Services, Integrated Services Network. And now we're pretty much alone there because that money has dried up, and our county money is the only money pretty much left there. There used to be housing developers and job developers and social workers. That's pretty much shrunk down to our 3 peer supporters who also try to do housing development, job development, and whatever people need when they walk in the door and say, here's a cup of coffee and here's where you can go to do this or get bus tickets. And it's a lively support center with lots of groups, one-on-ones, outings and fun stuff to do that people who don't have a lot of money don't often get a chance to do. So those are the 3 drop-in centers. We have Reach Out, which is a visitation program which takes folks who've been in hospitals and locked settings back into those settings for usually on Saturdays or days when there's not a lot going on normally, and visits folks. Brings usually some sort of programming, about the holidays or something that people have asked for, and also some snacks. And then says, hey, we're here when you get out. Come on, see us at the drop-in centers, or we're here. And we know you've been through a lot, and you can come out, and there's life after hospitalization. And Best Now is a training program for clients who want to work in the system. And so they have a 8-week or 10-week program, and then also a paid internship. So that's, I think, all of our programs.
Yeah, very impressive. Have you ever felt hostility from the system or from families who are involved with the clients that you're trying to help? And if so, how did you handle that? Or is this something that's changing now since, recovery is more accepted by both families and professionals and so forth? Maybe it's more acceptable to have self-help. I don't know if that's changing or not. I guess I'd like to hear from you.
Well, I would have to say, yeah, I've felt hostility, both from the system, sometimes from providers who think, that I'm trying to undermine their work with my peer support or my advice or suggestions to consumers. They sometimes have said, oh, well, you're trying to, you're suggesting to clients that they stop taking their medications, which actually isn't true. I haven't actually suggested that to anybody. It's really a medical decision, but I get accused of that. The brochure that I mentioned, one doctor said, oh, you're trying to suggest to people that they can go off their meds. I was like, no, that's not what I'm trying to do. That's not what the brochure is saying. And trying to, I used to get very frightened when that happened, because I would kind of take it in as, okay, they're telling me something about myself, and I'm beginning to understand that no, it isn't always about me. It's often about them and their issues and their concerns, and try and present my side and not scream and yell at them, and just try to present it and be patient, and also I guess try to hear what it is they're afraid of, or what they're angry about, or what they're concerned about. If there's anything I can do about that.
For me, the hostility is more about working together. Sometimes at cross purposes. A lot of frustration has come down among families and us, and then I call it the dysfunctional triangle: the victim, persecutor, and what's the third one? Rescuer. And oftentimes we play that game in the mental health system, where I'm the victim a lot, and my parents are either the rescuers or the persecutors, and the system is in between. I'd love to see more, and I have seen more interaction amongst family members and us directly, and we realize that our frustrations come sometimes from the same not getting what we need from the system. And I'm hoping that with the MHSA and other programs that we can facilitate what I call reconciliation, that we work on each other's issues directly rather than having a third party there to sort of...
Now that's the Mental Health Services Act,
yes.
Prop 63, passed by the California voters, bringing a lot of money and new ideas into the system. So,
it's sort of spearheading the newest recovery, resiliency-based thinking. Now, whether or not the system will truly transform based on that, I don't know. I'm an old person who doesn't really know about working within the system. I know it's important to do both, but I'm an outsider who wants to remain outside and create alternatives.
Yeah, there's a place for insiders and outsiders, so it's I think almost any system. So what would you say your ideal vision of a future would look like?
Oh. Well, I see it as people wouldn't be hospitalized because there would be no need. That people could be treated in the community, but it wouldn't even be treatment. It would be more like support. connections with people, that there would be acceptance, there wouldn't be stigma, there wouldn't be, when you're in the hospital, you kind of get used to being in the hospital, then you get in the community, and there's this huge barrier you have to go through. It's not a physical barrier, it's like an attitudinal barrier that you have to leap across to go and live in the community after you've been in the hospital. And there wouldn't be that barrier because we would be in the community. We would be supporting each other. People would understand and know how to provide support and know when not to provide support. And it would be less, driven by force and need to control people.
How about you?
I have, if you wouldn't mind, I have a little piece that I wrote from a Fat Lip script. It's sort of my idea of very simplistic way of dealing with the future. But anyway, how does it feel to go through life being on the cutting edge of oppression? We put on our normal disguise and face the world masking our hurt with political belief. How to change society, not our bodies or behavior or the way we think or feel. Let's start with who I am, what I know best. Fat, crazy woman. To make the world safe for fat people, room for all sizes, no more glares. Comfortable clothes, bigger chairs. Loving and touching, no more grudging. No more competing, no one watching what they're eating. Time to grow. To make the world safe for crazy people. Places to freak out, no one judging. People who've been there letting you go through your stuff. No labels, no drugs, no restraints, no forced treatment, no reprisals. Time to learn and think and feel. To make the world safe for women, relationships that nurture and heal, space to be alone, no street fear day or night, being fairly compensated for being mothers, and being celebrated as significant others. Time to be all that we are.
Wow.
A little bit idealistic.
Yeah. Well, we talked about the Mental Health Services Act. Many consumers are now entering the workforce due to some of these activities. How do you see they can best be successfully integrated?
Wow. I mean, I really hope that happens.
Yeah.
I think right now, I actually feel it's really important for people to be hired and to be out as a consumer in the workplace, because I think that challenges people's attitudes, their beliefs, their expectations, that when you have that label, when you have that diagnosis, it means, it doesn't mean anything. We're very diverse people. We have a lot of skills, we have a lot of abilities, and that's all separate and something else other than the diagnosis. And I think it's so important to do that. But at some point in the future, I think, we could be out and everyone could feel comfortable if they had a diagnosis or a difference even, that's accepted, and that, we find ways to work around so that people can work in the workplace, and it wouldn't be such a big deal, But I mean, I think right now we have to be out and really talk to our coworkers about it, and how the language that's used, how the attitudes impact us, and so there's some more sensitivity.
There also, to me, there also needs to be, I really worry about the pioneers, the ones that are coming into a transforming system, because it's still so hierarchical and still based on a medical model, and ultimately still a forced social control model. And who can be a peer? I mean, a peer to you was somebody who let you hold them and was truly a peer. They weren't being paid to be there. That makes me worried, that I want people to come to self-help where people are truly peers, so that people can leave or come and go as they please. So everybody has, if it is a locked door, everybody has keys. And if there's a hierarchy, it's a hierarchy of experience, of knowledge base, of skills, and not of, I'm an MSW and I'm a sociologist and I'm a psychiatrist. And so everybody has a box and a sphere that they have to fit in. I really hope that this self-help program can inculcate the reaching across message.
Now, I'd like to have a challenge for those of you who are in the viewing audience. I'd like to have you remind yourself of a time in the past when you've been hurt or when someone close to you has been hurt. And I want you to think of how you might use the experience that you went through to help others. In a sense, how might you transform that pain into something positive in the future? So that's your assignment. Now I'd like to give you some resources and organizations that if you would like to follow up. Nancy's organization is the Alameda County Network of Mental Health Clients. The website where you can find information is www.banmhc.org. The telephone number is on your screen. There's also a California Network of Mental Health Clients. The website is on your screen. There's a network of care for Alameda County. It has many programs that are of help. The website is on the screen. The PEERS organization, PEERS Envisioning and Engaging in Recovery Services, we had a whole show on that, is in Oakland and teaches people how to be self-advocates. There's a website with many resources for the client area called mindfreedom.org. And finally, there is a suicide hotline, 1-800-SUICIDE. I'd like to thank my guests, Carol and Nancy, for being here and sharing your views, especially your vision for the future. You're wonderful. And to close, I'd like to say, take courage, friends. The way is often hard, the path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. Take courage, for deep down there is another truth. You are not alone. Thank you for watching.